No, welcome everybody to this session organized by Envaco and the Dutch Embassy in Australia. Envaco is the Dutch Association of Water and Environmental Technology Companies. We bring together over 100 tech companies and through sessions like this, these tech talks, we address societal challenges that we can, bring further, manage, mitigate by applying the technologies that we provide and develop. So today we are talking about the valorization of organics, and so see if we can turn vegetables waste, fruit production waste that is now rotting away on farm sites, if we can turn it into something valuable. So let me, Maureen, can you show the next slide? I will talk you through the agenda of today. I will give the floor to Alida in a few seconds. Alida Ritsema, the Deputy Consul General of the Consulate General of the Netherlands in Sydney. Then a few words of Karen Kane, who is leading the Latrobe Valley Authority, and who can give an introduction on the Gippsland region where we're focusing on today and what is going on there when it comes to this topic. Then we have 3 representatives of farmers, of agriculture organizations who are dealing with this issue, dealing with this topic. Christopher, it's great to have you. You're running especially in Dutch terms, a huge farm you will show us later, and we were very curious to see how you look to circularity and especially in the organics. And then Simon, Gippsland Water, you will take over and give your vision, and Professor Joe Jacobs who is for his research, or within his research, has a research farm where a lot is going on, and he will also give his vision on this topic. Then we have the sort of the problem side, if you wish, the challenge side has been addressed. Then we'll have a short break. It's only 2 minutes, just long enough to grab a coffee or a glass of water. And then right away, I will give the floor, and that's the next slide, to Klaas Hofstra from Adverio Waste Systems, who is engineering installations in digestion and composting. Erik Schut, who is his company is working on the treatment of the gases that come out of these processes, and Mark Beert from Columbus Technology, who will be talking about reclaim of proteins from organic waste. Then Bert Keesman, a few minutes, for you the floor to announce a mission of Dutch tech companies coming to Australia in the coming years, and Karen Alida Forterre of the Dutch Embassy and myself will wrap up this session and summarize. The chat is open for all your comments and ideas, visions, and so on, so don't hesitate to ask questions or come up with your ideas there. Alida, can I give the floor to you for a few first words?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much for organizing this and making this happen. Goedemorgen in Nederland, good morning in the Netherlands, and good afternoon in Australia. My name is Alida Ritsema. I'm the Deputy Consul General of the Consulate General in Sydney. I have to admit it's quite a mouthful, but you can just call me Alida. Makes it easier. As you can see on the slide, we have 2 diplomatic missions in Australia. We have an embassy in Canberra, and we have a Consulate General in Sydney. But actually, we work very closely together, and we work as one team. My colleague Di Forterre, who is part of our economic team, who will talk later on in this program, he is based in Canberra. And we have 5 other team members in Sydney. So all in all, we work very closely together. Very happy to be here, that we have this opportunity to discuss the societal challenge in the framework of circular economy. I'm also very happy that we have our partners from the Latrobe Valley participating today. We work very closely together with them and about their games and all ambition in the transition in Gippsland. So very pleased we have this opportunity to connect people. If we go to slide 1, the second slide, if it's still there, Maureen, thank you very much. You can see as a team, economic team, we have 4 priority themes. Actually, the Australian markets continue to have a lot of potential and interest for Dutch trade and investments. And we have set out 4 priority themes for our work based on the developments in Australia and related to Dutch interest. You can read livability and accessibility. It's more about smart cities, but also sustainable cities, sustainable food production, circular economy, and renewable energy and hydrogen. A cross-sectoral theme in our goals is sustainability and innovation. So the society challenges we discussed today are related to sustainable food production and circular economy themes. So I'm very happy we have this opportunity, and I really see it as a first Tech Talk, and hopefully many more will follow. So yes, as I already said, we have an economic team, we have 2 missions, and our main goal is to give direct support to Dutch companies, but also to connect people, and really to connect people on all levels, on all as well as government level, company level, but also knowledge level. So yeah, I'm very happy we have all these levels here together today. So thanks again, Ignas, for organizing this.
Yeah, well, more than welcome. And this is really a cooperation, Alida. So thank you as well. How we did this together. Karen, can I give the floor? Because it's just a few. Phil, can you please switch off your camera? It helps to give more focus to the people who are speaking. And Karen, I'd like to give the floor to you for a few words.
Yes, so good morning and good afternoon, everybody, and thank you very much for the opportunity for us to participate in this really great opportunity here. So first of all, just thank you very much to Enverqua for the opportunity, and to the Dutch Embassy. And thank you, Alida, very much. We've had a very good working relationship with Alida and the Netherlands Consulate for some time now. It's a really important relationship in terms of the opportunities for both the Netherlands and Gippsland in the state of Victoria in Australia. It's a very important relationship because of the common areas of interest, the common areas of work that we're undertaking. So being able to hear from the people involved today and the work they're doing is going to be very helpful. So just a bit of information about Gippsland. So we're a land mass about the same size as the Netherlands, actually, but with a very smaller population. It just doesn't compare. We're only over just under 800,000 people in a land mass the same size, but we generate a lot of economic activity, particularly around agriculture. So the food and fibre sector, as you see, is a considerable contributor to the economy here, but not only within the region, but for the domestic market and for export. And one of the things that we're really keen to understand is how we understand the opportunities for innovation and collaboration, particularly around the points that Alida made as priorities. Certainly, livability and accessibility is important in a rural community, and one of the challenges for us is the distances for us in terms of where people live with such a small population. But certainly, sustainable food production is one of our really important focuses. So the reputation for our products is very good. We have a very good tracing program here for our products, and the quality of our products are very highly valued. But I think one of the things that's important today is to hear from 3 leading organisations in our community who are involved across both meat, dairy and horticulture, and the work that they're doing. But I also want to recognise the partnership that we have with Food and Fibre Gippsland, which is the peak body here for food and fibre production. And Nicola Perrault, the CEO, is with us this afternoon and this morning. So thank you very much, Nicola, for joining us. And we work very closely with that agency on progressing the benefits of what we can provide here. Probably the last point I would like to make is that the Latrobe Valley Authority was established 4.5 years ago as a response to the closure of the first coal-fired power station here in the Latrobe Valley. Latrobe Valley has been, until this point of time, the centre of electricity generation for the state of Victoria and for other parts of Australia. But as we transition away from coal as an energy source, obviously we're looking to diversify the economy, but build on the strengths that are already here beyond that industry. The work we've been doing and the connection we've made through to the leader in the Netherlands consulate has probably come about because of our work with the Smart Specialisation platform through the EU. And as appears on this slide, we are registered on that platform and have been for some time. So we've been working with a couple of our local universities, Melbourne University and Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology, on understanding the work that happens through the smart specialisation approach to contemporary regional development. And much of our work is based on the practices of that approach. And that is the model of the way we operate in looking for specialisation here built on the strengths of this region. So one of the things we're keen to learn about is really how we develop very strong collaboration and innovation across our industry sectors in Gippsland for all the benefits we know that can come from that. So I'm really pleased to be here for this first Tech Talk, and I hope it's one of many, and really look forward to the relationships that we start to build today. So thank you very much.
Super, Karen. Thanks for this introduction, and you put a little bit of pressure on our shoulders to excite you and to come up with some innovative and really forward thinking and forward bringing technology. So that's what we'll be aiming for in the second half of this Tech Talk. Just Alida, for you also practical thing, please switch off your camera, because then we can focus on Chris. Christopher Scheurs, please take over.
Thank you everyone for allowing me to participate here. So we're farmers down in South Gippsland. We bought a property there a few years ago, but very briefly, we're a Dutch family that came out from the Netherlands in the late 1950s, established a farm in Clyde in 1963. Next slide, please, Maureen. A third generation business now. We're the third generation purchased the business 7-8 years ago, and now we've expanded that business as three cousins and moving forward in Middletown and in South Gippsland. Next slide, please, Maureen. At the moment, we have 1,600 acres across 5 locations and employ 170 people. When we bought the business back in 2013, it was around about 800 acres and employing around about 120 people. So we have grown the business significantly over the last 8 years. Next slide, please, Maureen. Our production we're mainly heavily focused in celery, and we grow over 20,000 tonnes of celery a year, over 2,000 tonnes of leeks, and in a summer period we grow some baby leaves, so spinach, rocket, and also some snow pea tendrils. Next slide, please, Maureen. So one of the things that we've really focused on when purchasing our new property in Tarwin was to become a lot more sustainable in the way we grew and way we produced, and what we could also look at doing with our waste later on. One of the key elements, of course, with growing celery in a climate that it can be extremely hot in summer, 40-degree northerly winds versus quite a cool and wet winter, is water supply. And having an adequate water supply, managing that water supply, both for reusability point of view, but also putting it back into an environment where other farmers down the river stream can utilise it is extremely important. So in terms of what is a good volume of water to grow celery, you basically need 2.5 to 3 megalitres per acre per year as a bit of a rule of thumb. So currently, we've got 2,500 megalitres available to us, which is a combination of river, Class A recycled, and bore water. Everything in our Tarwin property in Gippsland is 100% river water. Next slide, please. As you can see here, our Tarwin Farms is a work in progress. It's a rollout. 2015 we started off at 50 acres, and now we just have just over 500 acres up and running with fixed drainage and irrigation. We need that fixed irrigation in Australia because on the hot days, really to be able to cool down your crops and keep them moist, we need to be able to put on overhead sprinklers to keep that there, and so therefore it becomes really important to be able to trap that water and recirculate it back into our system. From there you can see we've got a number of dams. We've got the first dam we built there was 160 megalitres. Next dam was about 400 megalitres, and the dam we're planning to build next year is going to be around about the 500 to 600 megalitre storage capacities, and that will enable us to get through a dry summer. Next slide. So I'm talking at the moment more around our field production and a circular society or circular works around our water in a field. I'll then also move on to talking about that in a production facility as well, where I'll also mention some of what we're doing with some of our byproducts as well. So when we're growing, we try and keep a good eye on the ecology with the habitat that we're working around. It's really important for us to try and filtrate a lot of that water runoff before it goes back into our sumps and dam system, or B, going back into the river system. So, filtrating the nutrients and sediments back out of that water and making sure it's as clean as possible it can be is extremely important for us. And so we've been able to manage that by, as you can see in the pictures here, doing plantations of grasses and shrubs along our drainage systems, and also on the banks of our sumps. And we're also establishing wetlands too to help the ecology around that area. So when it does drain away, it is most certainly those floodwaters are clean when they do flood. That will do drain away. We do get a little bit of flood along the river over winter. On a side note, there from a environmental point of view, we are also keen on planting out some of the areas of our farm where we cannot grow any crops. It's not really feasible. So we're looking at locking that away for a carbon offset and planting that with some natives. To date, we've already planted over 50,000 natives to help with our filtration systems and our through systems with our getting that balance between fauna and flora and your crops. Next slide, please. So monitoring our water usage is extremely important. So we've just installed lately a number of flow meters on our sumps and obviously on our dams to monitor the rainwater, the irrigation runoff. There's obviously water meters on the pumps that pump the water directly out of the Tarwin River. We've also just implemented a permanent weather station that's linked to soil moisture probes that will monitor saturation levels as well as soil temperature, air temperature, rainfall when it's raining and when it's not raining, and how much rain that could be predicted. Aside from that, some of the sumps also obviously work as sediment traps as well before that water is released back into our dams or back into the natural environment. Some figures here that might be of interest. Since implementing these flow meters and what have you, since January we've pumped 316.5 megalitres out of the Tarwin River. Out of that irrigation, we've from the sumps themselves, what you see here in the picture.
2 minutes. You have 2 minutes left.
That's fine. We've utilised 185 megalitres and irrigated 441 megalitres of water, and that's basically over a 13-week period or 92 days. We've used 2 megalitres per acre, or from a rainwater perspective, 434 rain per acre. So it's really important for us to be able to recycle that back in. Next slide. The soil wealth really is there to really helps, keep that soil, keeps all the good bugs in there, organic matter, re-put that organic matter back into the soil before we crop again, and really hold some of that good bugs and good bacteria in that soil, and maintain soil structure and reduces erosion, which is really important. Next slide. In our production facility, we use a water treatment system called unipolar water, which is basically electrolyzed water. It's basically chemical free. All we do is use this product and add salt to the water, table salt, and that enables us to split that water molecules up into different naturally occurring salts, hydrogen peroxides, ozone, free chlorine, hydroxyl radicals, and it's this cocktail of naturally occurring substances that really treats our products before going out to the consumer. It's environmentally friendly, it's totally organic, and once it finishes, it really does convert back into natural water afterwards. So when we release that out of our production facility, it's recycled back into our dams, and it's a clean way of filtrating our water inside our facility. We're in the process at the moment of designing a new production facility, doubling the size, and this is a key element that's going to be part of our whole water recycling and washing cycle technology in the plant. From a food waste perspective, we've got two projects on the way at the moment.
Please work towards an end, Chris.
One is a liquid one, and one is a solid project that we're looking at producing, and that's at the moment I can't give too much information because it's still halfway through that project, but they're quite exciting projects anyway to do with our waste. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Great. Oh, this is your last slide. Excellent. No, so, and I feel already this water reuse topic is really hot in the Netherlands as well. So this, deliberately or not deliberately, this could be a next tech talk because there's so much to say about water research, reuse here as well. So this is a nice next step, maybe. Thank you, Chris, for introducing this, your site and your ambitions on the topic of circularity. Simon, can you please take over and introduce Gippsland Water?
Thank you very much, and I will say good day to everybody. Zones we're in. So my name is Simon Aquilina. I am General Manager of Commercial Business at Gippsland Water. I'll be talking about our current commercial business activities. It will be based on current day activities. I have not got any information here about potential expansion projects or plans. However, happy to talk to that at another forum if need be. Next, please. So Gippsland Water, we are a water and wastewater authority within the state of Victoria. We cover a service area of around 5,000 square kilometres. We range over four council areas and a very diverse range of climatic rainfall and soil conditions across it. We're actually at one end we've got properties in one of the top three wettest areas in Victoria, and to the eastern end we're actually got properties in one of the lowest rainfall areas in Victoria. So very diverse. We manage and own a large range of land parcels, and overall we cover we have over 12,500 hectares of land to manage. Out of that 12,500 hectares, we have around 11 sites that are used for active farming activities, and you can see on this diagram there are a number there that have orange diamonds on them. They are associated with some of our wastewater treatment facilities, which allows us access to approximately on average every year around 1.5 gigalitres, so 1,500 megalitres per annum to be used for irrigation on our farming activities. It's a mixed farming site, so we run beef cattle, grain crops, fodder crops, and we have pine plantations. Out of the 12,500 hectares, we actively farm around 3,000 hectares. Our largest site is to the right of that slide, to the east. That is called Dutson Downs, and that's about 8,500 hectares, and we actively farm around 2,000 hectares of that particular site. Next, please. This just gives you a bit of an idea of how our activities encapsulate the circular economy. I won't go into great detail here, but we'll talk about it in the next slides. In essence, we receive both liquid and solid wastes, and they get treated or applied in different ways for us to be able to actually actively reuse them. So a Gippsland regional agribusiness, which is one of the commercial businesses I look after. It's basically an agricultural business. We have 7 full-time employees. We utilise all of or majority of our available wastewater, so about 1.5 gigalitres per year. But we also utilise a large portion of our manufactured compost, which occurs on one of our sites I'll talk about later on. We have around an 800 head Angus breeding herd. We've got about 450 hectares of pine plantations. There is around 600 hectares of irrigated crops, both fodder crops and grain crops, and a lot of that material goes back into the local industry, whether it be dairy industry or the local cattle markets. We do export, or some of the meat that comes from our cattle also goes to export markets, as well as our timber products. Next. Gippsland Regional Organics is our waste management and compost manufacturing facility. You'll see the blue thatched area there within that boundary site. So that's Dutson Downs. That's 8,500 hectares. 356 hectares of that is the tidal land that we have around our organics facility and our compost manufacturing facility. We have 21 full-time employees, and we have an EPA licence to accept up to 250,000 tonnes of waste per annum. That's a combination of prescribed and non-prescribed waste that we receive in both liquid and solid form. I'll go through the manufacturing process in a little bit, but all of the products that we sell off-site are compliant and certified to AS 4454. And we have four registered products at this stage. The 2 main methodologies we use are both in-vessel and open windrow, and we're very fortunate because we do have a large tract of land there, so we can actually spread ourselves out and do more of the low-cost open windrow composting. At the moment, we take in around 170 to 180,000 tonnes of variable organic waste, and I'll talk about them in a moment, and we produce up to around 60,000 tonnes of certified compost every year. Next, please. So we have a broad range of waste streams that we can take in. Unfortunately for us, we actually get to repurpose a lot of our own waste on site. So for instance, the biosolids that we manufacture in our wastewater treatment facilities, we can actually repurpose and process on site ourselves rather than taking it off site and having to pay someone else to dispose or treat it. Same goes obviously for our treated domestic effluent. In addition to that, we take a broad range of different organic waste. So residential curbside green waste, a lot of dairy waste. We take food waste, I guess, the ugly part of the business, which is more mortality, unfortunately, death of animals. So we support the poultry industry very closely down in Gippsland. There's a lot of other food waste and the like that we take in, contaminated soils, and in essence, we blend them up and we run them through a certified composting process. To be able to do that, though, we have to undertake a large amount of screening and testing, because the last thing we want to do is obviously have a detrimental effect on the environment or other people's livelihoods, as in regards to farmers that are going to be spreading it out on their land. We are at a point where we have had to reject a number of requests, and we continue to do so, either based on the composition of that material, so we find it potentially too contaminated to compost, or just due to capacity. There is a significant demand for not only ourselves but the industry overall to take more organic waste and process more of this compost material. Next, please. So phase one in that circular economy process is obviously the receival of the wastes and the treatment of it. So in regards to domestic wastewater, we have a broad range of different processes, whether they be lagoon processes or mechanical processes. And out of that, we produce a lot of biosolids. Obviously, that gets taken off to the organics facility for processing. We produce different amounts and I guess different qualities of wastewater. On our agribusiness farms, we take it to what we call Class C, and that is approved for irrigation and discharge for cropping and pasture irrigation purposes. I've spoken already about the solid waste that come into the soil, so we can move on to phase two, please. Next slide. So in regards to biosolids production, it's a combination of domestic and industrial waste or liquid waste that get treated, and that produces our biosolids. Again, we do a lot of screening and testing. The composition does vary with catchment. So if we have catchments that are heavily industrialised, there's a lot more testing that has to be done in order to into the process, and on occasion we may not be able to reuse or accept that waste from external authorities. Annually, we take in around 22,000 tonnes of our own biosolids, and in addition to that, we can take in another 3,000 to 8,000 tonnes, and that's transported to us almost 5 to 7 days a week. Next slide. So the compost production, as I said earlier, a combination of prescribed and non-prescribed. We use in-vessel and open windrow. You can see the two photos at the top. That's actually what we call open windrow. I guess it's self-explanatory. And the in-vessel is the bottom left-hand corner, where it's done within a tightly controlled environment. We blend all the different types of waste together, and then they go through a prescribed method for both pasteurisation and maturation. And there are very strict criteria you must meet for both time, temperature, and dissolved oxygen to be able to achieve the quality you want, but also to gain certification. Overall, it could take up to anywhere between 10 to 14 weeks to end up with a final product. Next slide, please. And then obviously we come to the reapplication of the compost. So we warrant our product for broad acre application, majority of it. If customers do want to use it for other purposes, it has to be blended to actually meet optimum effect. It's not designed to be blended and used in small gardens or in pots. It is actually specifically manufactured for broad acre use. We generally don't sell to the market ourselves. We distribute. So we have a number of distributors that distribute this to customers around the state. I guess I can't help myself. I do have to dabble a little bit. So I have started to engage in the market myself in different areas. The main areas of use are broad acre agriculture, so mainly cropping. But we have been starting to gain entry into rehabilitation of mines and quarries and other landscapes. It does get used on golf courses, roadside landscaping, and even forestry, whether that be ourselves or broader. Next slide.
Please try to work to an end, Simon.
Yeah, we've got a couple of slides left. So in regards to the benefits from an agribusiness point of view, there are the basics. So recycling of nutrients, soil health, biology, and productivity of marginal land. More importantly for us, we get to avoid some significant operational costs. So by treating and reusing our water internally, we can save up to around $1.5 million per annum. And then in regards to benefits to our local region, we estimate it can provide up to another $1.3 to $1.4 million of revenue and expenditure within the region. In addition to the 7 direct jobs, there's another 5 additional indirect jobs that we believe we bring into the region. Next. Regional organics is considerably larger. Again, there are the technical and physical benefits, water holding capacity, richness of organics that go back into the land and so forth. In this instance, we produce an additional revenue of around $1.1 million per annum. That's gross profit. And on top of that, we avoid operational costs of approximately $2.2 million per annum, based on us, again, treating our waste streams internally. Local economy, our impacts there are up to around $5.7 million additional that goes into our regional economy, and that supports an approximately additional 22 indirect jobs, as well as our 25 direct jobs. So significant employment benefits there. Next. And that's about it. Quite rushed, but thank you very much, and happy to take questions or expand later on.
Yeah, super, Simon. And questions, I suggest people ask them on the chat, so please follow the chat for questions. And nice to hear your really wide scope of activities and your the way that you're treating. I think that Klaas, I don't know, but I hope that Klaas can excite you after the break with his vision on composting and digestion. Joe, do you want to take over here?
Yep, thank you very much. Okay, so I've just got a few slides I want to run through here. Can I just have the next one, please, Maureen? So the Ellenbank Smart Farm is a 230 hectare farm milking around 450 Holstein dairy cows. Of that 230 hectares, about 170 is effective grazing area, so a stocking rate of around 2.5 cows to the hectare. It's a pasture-based system with year-round grazing, so animals are not housed. The only time they go undercover is in the dairy, or if we're running a research study in one of the feed facilities. Pastures supplemented with a range of conserved forages and also different grain concentrate supplements. It is Australia's premier dairy research and innovation facility. There are other research facilities that undertake dairy research. They're one based in Queensland, which focuses on tropical, subtropical, one at Sydney, which historically has focused around robotic milking systems, and a smaller one down in Tasmania, which has focused very much on pasture-only systems. We partner with industry, agribusiness, the education sector, and communities. And a real focus is to demonstrate, validate, test, develop, and showcase technologies. And that is at scale. So that could be from the individual animal, as you can see in the photo there, with what we call a munch meter, where we measure the number of jaw movements, whether they're grazing, chewing, or ruminating, through to herd scale, where it's around allocation of feed across the herd, from plant, so the individual plant, through to paddock, which is the bottom right photo there, which is just depicting spatial variability of yield across paddocks, through to the whole farm scale. It's a combination of research and innovation activities and also demonstration of farm applications, so commercial farm applications. We focus on technology that's fit for purpose, how it integrates, whether it's practical, what's the scalability, and is it actually economically viable to undertake. The research and innovation we do undertake, it's co-developed, co-designed and co-invested with industry partners, whether they're peak bodies like Dairy Australia, which operates on behalf of dairy farmers in Australia, or they are commercial companies. And a key part of what we do is take the opportunity to de-risk for farmers. And by that, I mean that we're willing to look at multiple technologies and how they do integrate. Historically and traditionally, farmers in Australia and Victoria would be more aligned with a single technology just to test whether it would work on its own in isolation. We take that a stage further and try and pull a range of technologies together. Next slide, please. So the Ellenbank Smart Farm, we've set us this goal of can we achieve carbon neutrality, and not just whether we can achieve it, whether we can do it in the next 5 years, so by 2026. Just to make that a bit more challenging, we're also saying is can we take our herd and have animals producing 10,000 litres per year at pasture and do that for multiple lactation, so 100,000 litres in a lifetime. Just to context that, the average cow production in Australia is just a tad over 6,000 litres per cow, and on average they last 5, maybe 6 lactations. So we've got a long way to go to achieve that aspirational goal, but one we think we can head towards. Now the photos just around this slide are just some of the different facilities we have at Ellenbank. So if we go from the bottom left, we're just in the process of establishing a helical windmill. That's our battery storage, 100 kilowatt hours of battery. The photo above is the 100 kilowatts of solar panels. We've got a feed facility. The cow at the top there in the middle has got equipment on to measure methane from an individual animal at grazing. The facility on the top right are calorimeters that enabled us to measure emissions from individual animals, and also they're temperature controlled, so we can look at heat stress in animals. And then just moving around to the bottom right corner, that's one of our lab facilities to measure gases emanating from different manure treatments. And then the dairy cow there's got a nitrogen sensor attached, which allows us to measure nitrogen concentration and volumes from animals' urine. So just a bit of a sense of some of the work that we're currently doing. Next slide, please. As part of this achieving carbon neutrality, obviously one of the first components was to understand what actually are our emissions. So using the Australian National Greenhouse Gas Inventory calculator, we came up with a figure you can see there of 2,670 tonnes of CO2 equivalents per annum. The good news is that that's pretty close to a similar farm using data from the Dairy Farm Monitor. For a farm of our size and our number of animals, that is consistent. So the good news for me was that that number is about in the right ballpark. Of that, about 60%, just over 60% comes from enteric methane, so the methane cows burp up. About just under 20% from manure, and around 14% from energy. So collectively, they're around 94% of all our emissions. Now, whilst I'd like to sit here and tell you all about the great work we do with enteric methane and alternate energy, time precludes today, so I'll just focus on the manure management part. So out of that, and that equates to about 500 tonnes of CO2 equivalents, around 70% is methane and about 30% nitrous oxide. Next slide, please. So let's focus just on the manure management. So our current effluent management system, it results in significant losses and lost opportunity. So I've just mentioned there the amount of methane, gaseous methane we lose, and nitrous oxide. It consists of a sump. So the picture on the bottom left of this slide is basically a sump at the bottom of the dairy yards. So the wash down each day collects in the sump. That then goes, the middle picture there, you can see the top of a weeping wall where the liquids dribble through the wall and the solids are trapped. That sump gets emptied on I will say a regular basis, probably not as regular as it could get done. Like many jobs on the farm, it's one that often slips by. The liquid then flows through, and the picture on the bottom right is the first pond, the anaerobic pond. Which is about a 5 megalitre pond. That then flows through to 2 other ponds of about 3.5 and just over 5 megalitres in size. Associated with that, we've got limited irrigation option. We can only irrigate about 12% of the farm at this time. And the pond is emptied every 3 or 4 years to remove the solids. It's not an ideal system. you can see that it's pretty much open to the environment, and we do get a lot of losses. Some of the work one of my colleagues who's on this meeting today, Sharon Aarons, has undertaken, has looked at a range of ameliorations to reduce gaseous losses from these sort of systems. And I think it'd be fair to say that some are more successful than others, but ultimately, to some extent, it's about pollution swapping. So where you reduce emissions at one stage, you invariably lead to some of those emissions occurring at another point in the system. And it's really how you then look to use those products in a timely manner. We produce about 3 to 4 tonnes of wet manure daily off the dairy yards and some of the other feed pad areas we have. That gets combined with high volumes of washdown water, which is recycled water from one of the aerobic ponds, which lowers the dry matter further. Highly variable dry matter content and nutrient concentrations, which are influenced by season and also by diet. So during spring, our diet might be 80% plus pasture and a small amount of supplement. And to some extent, that can reverse in summer when pasture growth is fairly limited. Which obviously affects the nutrients that go through the animal as well. Next slide, please. And just to finish up is more where we want to head. What are our opportunities? So where we're planning to go over the next 12 to 15 months is to put a farm scale anaerobic digester in at Ellenbank with associated pre and post processing technologies. So by that, I mean getting the right consistency of material entering the digester, and then processing the digestate so we can use it either for irrigation, as a fertilizer replacement, or as a soil improvement opportunity. To quantify biogas potential from that and look at the opportunity to potentially introduce co-products from other industries. That then flows through to the proposed research program, and that's really better understanding the farm's seasonal variability in manure properties and biogas potential. What is the opportunity to use other agricultural waste streams? So within close vicinity to Ellenbank, we have tomato waste, apple waste, viticulture. We've got a dairy factory that we can see, and also brewery waste. So there are some options, but it is understanding what is the potential, what are the best bets to commingle those products, and also what is the variation in those products through the year as well. And just to sort of finish up, the two photos here are some of the lab-based type opportunities we have. So the top picture there, they allow us to look at different fermentations of up to about 30, 40 litres plus of manure waste. And down the bottom, that's actually it's an ANCOM system, in vitro system, and they're relatively small jars, but we can expand that out to 1 litre, 2 litre jars. We've got the ability to measure the different gaseous emissions off of those. And obviously from our perspective, it's then how we can use the methane either as a source of heating within the dairy or potentially as a source of fuel for some of the farm vehicles. So Ignaz, that's sort of where we're thinking to head, and it's really a thought stimulating presentation where there may be opportunities for us to work with some potential collaborators from either the Netherlands or some of the groups that are already working in Australia. And I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Super. Now, Joe, you really, this is exactly what you have been doing. This is really has been really inspiring. I learned this morning that you actually the chewing frequency of cows are being measured, which is new for me. So that is, and also I think what is interesting in the Netherlands, we are so densely populated. We see a lot of developments in stables and in the floors of stables where to separate urine and the solid feces, and especially from nitrogen emission reduction. I'm not sure if that is something that is coming up in Australia as well, but there's a lot of this, these agriculture innovations are going on in the Netherlands, which is not really our cup of tea, but a lot of is going on. So now, and what is our cup of tea is the composting and digestion part. I think we're slightly running behind on schedules. What I suggest is to have a 1-minute break, then give the floor to Klaas, Eric, and Mark, and squeeze the wrap-up and the presentation of Bert slightly. So this is managing expectations. hoping of support of Bert and Karen and Alida to do so, because I want to make sure that that Klaas, Erica and Mark can do their presentations in full length. So it's 9:24 Central European time. Let's take 1 minute, so 9:25, to grab a coffee and then be back for the last half an hour. Thanks. So that was a short minute. Klaas, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Excellent. Then I suggest that you take over here.
Good morning, or good afternoon, good evening. We are everywhere in all moments of the day. Today I will tell something about composting and anaerobic digesting, AD for Australia. I saw already interesting information from Gippsland and Agriculture Victoria about these systems. So it is already known in Canada, in Australia. Next, please, Marijn. Klaas Hofstra, we have a general manager for Adveria Waste Systems, Sustainable Planet Solutions. We are an engineering company. We do processes for composting and anaerobic digesting facilities. We do the engineering, and we always try to work as much as possible with local partners to build the facility local, where they learn how to build it and how to maintain it. This is an overview for the AD facility, where you can see that all kinds of biomass go into the reception building, where we prepare the feedstock for the AD. I will tell later on. I will tell more about AD. In this AD facility, we make biogas. Biogas can be converted to electricity or natural gas into the grid. The solids and liquid what come out of the digestate can be converted into a fertilizer and go back to the agriculture sector to use on the land again. So this is the circular system where everybody talks about. Next, please. When you now look at the AD process, in the AD facility, all kinds of feedstock are used in the AD. Every feedstock has its own biogas yield and its own characteristics for breaking down in the facility. Most of the time, it is a co-digesting process, so there will be several products going into the AD facility, into the digester, where it will be converted into biogas. The organics in the material in the feedstock will be eaten by the bacteria which are in the digester tanks, the digester reactors. They convert the organics, or a part of the organics, into the biogas, and the biogas is collected in the balloon, what you see on the tank and in the tank. And so we have a continuous stream of biogas to the CHP or the gas upgrading, or sometimes they need heat, then to the boilers. The end product from the AD unit, from the AD tanks, is a digestate, what can be used as a fertilizer or used as a product to go into composting. Heat can be used biogas can be burned if you need heat for your industry. If you want to have electricity on the grid, then you can use a CHP to convert the biogas into electricity. The rest heat can be used as well from the engines. And what is missing on this flow is the gas upgrading system, where we take out the CO2 from the methane, and then the gas can. I don't know if there is a gas grid in Australia, but it can be used on a grid, or it can be collected in tanks, and we can convert it into CNG, LNG, all kinds of fuels, which can be used, for example, for cars, trucks, buses driving on it. Next, please. This is where you see how we do the design. We make the drawings. In the left picture, you see the drawing we made, and we supplied to the EPC contractor who built the facility. And next to that, you see the unit when it was built. And this is some examples what we do. We do the complete engineering. We supply all the drawings to the project, to the builder, and we coordinate them, and we help them to build the facility. We do the startup, we do the coordination, and if there is equipment or parts which are not available local, we will supply those to the project. Next, please. This is an example of a construction of the AD facility. You see it is in tanks. This one is what we built in the Ukraine. When we started building this, it was 2 tanks, and now they are building the 3rd tank. When the opening was, they ordered the next tank, and now they are already building the 4th tank. So it is also easy to start small and increase the capacity for an AD facility, if there is land, of course. Next, please. Here I have some basic figures. I do not exactly know what is available as feedstock in Australia, but you can have all kinds of biomass into the AD. Then you have the AD process, where the bacteria eat the organics and convert it into biogas. The biogas can go to upgrading or electricity production, and the digestate will be separated in solid, liquid, and there will be released some air with odor. Mark, who will be later on in the presentation, can tell something about wastewater treatment. Eric can tell something about air cleaning, so that nobody smells the odor. And the solid fraction can be used on land or mixed with fresh material for a composting facility. And then I think for some people most interesting is the table next to it. And I took as example, but I saw already bigger figures, but I took as example 70,500 tons of food waste a year, and also 15,000 tons of manure. But I think in Australia it can be a lot more. There you see some dry matter content. That is the organics which are in the feedstock. We have a biogas yield. Normally with food waste, it's around 200 cubic meters per ton. And with wet manure, with just 8% of dry matter, it is around 28 cubic meters per ton. And with this setup into an AD facility, you can produce 900 kilowatt every hour, 24/7. So and this is always, we always calculate with 8,500 hours per day, because there is some maintenance. But this will be delivered, so 8,500 hours per day if you have a feedstock like this. But of course, for every feedstock, there will be different figures. Next, please. Then we have the composting process. This is a process what also is used already at Gippsland. The feedstock, the organics, go into the composting facility. We do both, but I tell a little bit more about tunnel composting. It's also possible to have open composting, but it's also depending on the weather and the circumstances in the land, if it's possible to do that or not. Tunnels is always possible. The material, it's depending on what kind of material it is. It needs some pre-treatment where it needs to be grinded to have it smaller. And to have a good aeration in the tunnels, we need to mix it with, we call it structure material, and it can be rest wood or all kinds of biomass, which is a little bit bigger and make the waste more open. We control the air and the air supply and the moisture content in the tunnels. It will be around 3 weeks, the material around 3 weeks in the tunnels. We call that process the active composting part. During that active composting, the bacteria produce heat.
1 minute, Klaas.
Yes.
1 minute, please. Please continue.
Okay, during the active composting, the bacteria produce heat. The heat will be registered in the system, so you always can see that that we are on a certain time above a certain temperature. Normally, the 70 degrees is easy to reach in the composting, and in that way we also kill the pathogens which are in the feedstock. After 3 weeks we take out the material from the tunnels, we screen it, so we screen out the structure material and we leave it on a pile for maturation, and the screened out bigger fraction, oversized fraction, can be mixed again with fresh material, so there are already quite some bacteria in it. It will be mixed with the fresh material and we fill the tunnels again. Next, please.
Yeah, and please wrap up, Klaas, because we need to give the floor to the next one.
Okay, this is a drawing of the tunnel composting facility, what we are building now at this moment. So I thought it's nice to have it in this presentation. This is what we are doing now at the moment in Romania. Next, please. Bucharest. This is the construction where they are now. I just got some pictures yesterday. It's very difficult to go there, so I got some pictures from the client, who has his own EPC contractor who is building the facility with our drawings, and this is just a picture how they are progressing. Next, please. And then I have some basic figures. If you talk about building a composting facility, it will take 8 to 12 months. And if you build a AD facility, it will be 12 to 16 months. And CapEx OpEx comparison, 50% is 50%. The composting is 50% of the AD CapEx OpEx. That's quite some rough figures. And if people want to know more about it, we can talk about hours, but that's not allowed from Ignas, I think. And
that's right.
But then we can have a separate session or a separate communication to talk about this.
Super. No, thanks, Klaas. And through the chat, you can exchange your contact details, or afterwards this presentation, of course, after this session.
Or you can press print screen now.
Excellent. Yeah, that's a good idea. Also, the presentation will be shared on the Envaco website in a few days' time. So that's also a way to engage. And interesting, Klaas, to see that from the total design that you deliver, only the leather is not taking over. So that's something that you should focus on. But I expect the rest of the design
I thought nobody will see that. But the leather what was built finally is better than the one was on the drawing.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. I like the details. Eric, can you take it over from here?
Yeah, sure. Just a short introduction. Next, we're Azuro. Next slide, please. A company with 20 years experience, and we have operations in the USA, Europe, Middle East, and Australia. Our core business is biological air pollution control and biological desulfuration of biogas. And we work with, we were the first to work with synthetic media with a guaranteed performance. We have 600 installations worldwide, and we can be found in any type of industry, including wastewater, both industrial and municipal. And we do our own research and like to link that with some of the universities around the world. Next. Let's look at the odor in general. Some of the things are obvious as you think, but what causes bad odor? In general, especially food waste, microbial colonies in wastewater treatment or waste from production processes, they lead to variation of odorous compounds. Most commonly hydrogen sulfide, mercaptines, VOCs, volatile organic compounds, or amines. What's the problem with these? Well, one of them is it's going to give you a complaint from your neighbors if the odor drifts into the surrounding, and odors drift to tend really far further than you would expect, which potentially leads to either a complaint in the government and or bad press, which is a damage to your brand reputation. Another important thing is a healthy environment for your staff. A safe and healthy environment is a necessity, and obnoxious smells, but also toxic emissions, which can be lethal at high levels, need to be taken care of. So there we come to the air pollution control solution. There are several. We all know chemical washes, thermal oxidizers, activated carbon, etc. These are well known and they work very well. Where especially in the beginning, biological treatment had, such as organic biofilters, had issues that needed further development. And over the last 20 years, these development has been made, and the present biological system can meet the most stringent outlet concentration, and in some cases even don't need any further treatment. With one of the obvious advantages, if you don't need chemicals, you lower your operational cost. So the motto, if biological treatment can be applied, it should be applied. Next. I said organic biofilters. One of the problems with organic biofilters, especially in the past, was that the biocarrier media was consumed by the acidic organic solvents present. The development over the last 20 years was to find a inert media which was structured so you have open flow channels, because that increases your flow capacity and enables you to easily transport any residue out of the system. And the open channels also give you a lower pressure drop and a lower contact time. And the contact time reduces your footprint, the pressure drop reduces your power usage, and because of the biology that's on the carrier media is in the direct airstream, you increase your efficiency, and efficiencies for H2S up to 99.9% are possible with a biological system. If you place that in a round tank, then you have the opportunity to have multiple colonies in one system. And if air is introduced at the bottom, then we divide it in 3 stages. The first stage allows you to have a autotrophic microorganism. These are especially good for consuming H2S or sulfurous components. And by doing that, by taking in the H2S, the bacteria have as a byproduct residue a sulfuric acid, which lowers the pH. And this low pH residue aids in scrubbing ammonia, for instance, because with sulfuric acid you can turn ammonia into ammonium sulfate. So it neutralizes the ammonia, but also scrubs, this is the first scrubbing for VOCs and mercaptans. Then the air goes up to the second stage, where you slowly go to a neutral stage, where you have heterotrophic microorganisms that can absorb the volatile organic compounds and the mercaptines. And finally, you can go up to the third stage, where you have another colony or several colonies of heterotrophic microorganisms that can do final polishing for your air. And in some cases, you don't need any activated carbon system behind your biosystem, just because we've seen 500 OD units out, which is comparable to what would go out of a carbon system. In this type of system, from the top, you spray water, intermittent, so no continuous recycling or spraying. You spray intermittent and let the water trickle down slowly to the bottom. And that's the way to have 3 stages in one system. Next, please. Now, if we can apply the same biochemical chemistry to biogas, then we wouldn't need any chemicals. Well, green energy, everybody acknowledged the potential of it. Biogas generated by digesting sludge, manure, or in this particular case, food waste. Well, one of the things is that our general meal is meat, fish, eggs, cabbage. Most of those have high protein and high sulfur compounds, which then generate higher loads of H2S. The problem with H2S in biogas is, first of all, it's corrosive for downstream equipment, such as membranes, CPH, boilers. H2S is toxic. Even at low emissions, it's already toxic for humans. H2S causes a bad smell. At low concentrations, it has this distinct rotten egg smell. But it's also a little bit of a sniper, because at higher levels, it shuts down our nose and we don't smell it anymore, but it is actually there. And if you combust biogas with high loads of H2S, it's a source of SOx emissions. So one of the key issues to tap into the renewable energy source is to be able to remove the H2S. Also here, there are chemical, biochemical, and activated carbon solutions. They all work well, but could we use a biochemistry solution similar to the odor treatment? Because with the benefit of a lower OPEX and a green solution. And yes, that's possible if we use the aerobic biological wheel. Next, please.
You have 2 minutes left, Eric.
Yes. How this works, you want to try to keep the gas on the anaerobic side, because it's an anaerobic side, but we have to regenerate our chemistry, and we do that on an aerobic side. So gas comes in at the top on the left side of the slide, on the anaerobic side. There we have a acidic biological solution with active bacteria that consume the H2S, turn it into an intermediate, and take it with them to the aerobic side, where we heavily aerate the bacteria. They will release their sulfur intermediate, which is partly turned over into sulfuric acids. The advantage of a biological system is that it has a quite large buffer capacity. Twice the average is not a problem for a biological system. Removal efficiencies for these type of systems is over 99 or less than 10 ppm. You might need some carbon to turn it into green gas, but combusting this type of gas is no problem. So that's the power of Mother Nature. Like we used to say, biological processes are self-sustaining. Biological residues can be used, depending on legislation, to turn into valuable products such as a natural fertilizer. If you use our acidic or sulfuric acid in a scrubber for ammonia, you will turn it into ammonium sulfate. High removal efficiencies are possible. It's robust. In many cases, no further treatment, and most important, I think, in this circular economy, it's a green solution, because you don't need chemicals, no storage of hazardous chemicals, no frequent media change out, and the media is recyclable. You reduce the carbon footprint, and you have actually no waste byproducts. Next.
Great, Eric. You were really. I think you get today's award for the highest number of words per minute. So that's that one you did win. So thanks, Eric, for your contribution.
Welcome.
Really enabling technologies for an enabling technology for these biogas production. Mark, we have been talking about both water and bio or organics. Let's say Colubris is doing both the water treatment and the waste treatment. So I'm quite curious by now what you actually will present, which one you will be focusing on. So please take it away for the next 10 minutes.
Thanks a lot, Ignas. Hope everybody can hear me. Yeah, my name is Mark Beerten. I'm working for Colubris Cleantech. I'm responsible for waste solutions, solid waste solutions. Today I want to focus on sorting fractions and processing of industrial cutoffs from vegetables and fruit side streams. Next, please. A short history, Clubberies started approximately 1985. We're situated in the Netherlands. We focus on environmental projects in 3 disciplines. We have a team of approximately 100 people with a big engineering department, and we also do our own manufacturing for the parts that we make ourselves. And we focus on integrated solutions. Next slide, please. A short overview on the food waste flow that we encounter very often. And I want to touch 2 subjects today. The one with the sorting fractions and the bioresources. A short notice on the diagram itself. It shows that food waste, it can be sorted, sometimes not necessary, sometimes it is. If it is mixed waste, then you still need to sort it. After that, the organic fraction can be sent to a digesting process where Klaas already talked about. And after that, the water can be treated to be reused to any degree that you want. In fact, this reflects a process that both Klaas and me have been working on, where we have mixed waste, we sort it, we take organic fractions, we convert it to biogas and electricity, and in fact, the electricity runs the whole site. And that's a typical setup that we encounter. The second part that I want to focus on is bioresources. So taking food grade waste and convert it into valuable bioresources. Next slide. Yeah, the waste department, as said, it's making sorting lines. Can we focus on mixed flows? In general, we focus in this respect to flows where we also can screen out organic materials. Next slide, please. I've shown here a Lansing's ladder that reflects, in fact, the way you have to look at recycling. Of course, going to a landfill is the worst option. The best option is to reduce the waste. But just below that, there is reuse and recycling, and that's the stuff that we tend to focus on. And you can see here that sorting can be considered a first step before recycling. Next slide, please. Okay, the sorting itself, in fact, consists of various stages. As said, sorting is like a pre-treatment before recycling. So that means you make the batches suitable, make it more homogeneous to be handled in a recycling process. Typically for organic waste, you see that we take in batches of waste, we dose it, we screen it. When screening out small fractions, maybe around 80 mil, then you get most of the organics. These organics are led towards an organics separator where we smash out the non-organic parts, and the organic fractions are led towards a digester or a composting facility, for instance. An option would be shredding, although preferably we would leave that out because that's just mixing up the waste much more. Next slide, please. For today, I want to focus on our Department of Bioresources Solutions, a solution for upgrading residual flows from the food industry, and especially industrial cutoffs from vegetables and fruit side streams. Next slide, please. We have a process where we can, if you look at traditional processes where you take food waste, generally, it's reused for animal feed. That's still a relative high value, or it's used for digesting, as shown before, composting, or even incineration. These are nice solutions. They bring in money, but it's relatively low in the value chain. And also, if you look at the Lansing's ladder, you can also see if you stay close to the reuse part of Lansing's ladder, the value is the highest. Now we have a patented process where we can take food-grade proteins and dietary fibers and syrups directly from the cutoffs. So that means the food coming in, the food waste is in fact still food grade, and we keep it on food grade level, and therefore securing the highest value of that. We do that with a proven technology. It is patented, however. And it's in fact there's a growing demand for non-animal proteins, as most people are aware of. And nowadays, if you go to a burger chain, it's quite common to order for a veggie burger. People use non-animal proteins for that, and also to give structure to that. The parts that we can separate from a process can be used in this type of products. Traditionally, also for non-animal proteins, soy is used, although we see the sustainability impact of soya is subject of discussion, and therefore there's a growing demand for the stuff that we can take out directly out of the food waste. Next slide, please. So the projects, as said, are proteins, plant-based proteins, flavors, nutritional fibers, also being used for structuring products, and syrups. In general, what we do is, if we design a process, it's always based on testing in a testing facility. Why is that? The batches, they tend to vary, even if it's the same type of product. So from site to site, we really need to check the exact composition of the waste before being able to detail design the process itself. It is focused on capacities between 20 tons a day up to 200 tons a day of raw material. Of course, you can go bigger, but this is more or less the sweet spot where it's still feasible. So the batches are big enough to make a difference. The approach for this process is, as said, is always testing first. It was a quite steep learning curve there. Then the design, then securing offtake agreements, because local markets, you have to look for offtakers, for instance, for the proteins, and people need to get educated about the products and the quality before they step into something like this. So the offtake agreements are quite substantial, are quite essential to make a good business case. And when helping customers to build a business case and closing this business case, then we are able to execute a project. Next. Now, what is it suitable for? It started with onion peels, cabbage, red and white, leek, carrots, alfalfa, spinach, citrus peels, malt, germ, and brew grains. But as said, it's always based on testing. So in fact, our checklist before starting a project is this list, although we also consider other products, but this is the stuff that is proven that we feel comfortable with. Next. Yeah, to finalize this, I want to highlight that we are focusing on integrated solutions. So we have various disciplines that we want to integrate. So it's a one-stop stopping solution. So we are securing, let's say, the connections between the various disciplines, and I think that strengthens the approach in various countries. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Mark. That's really inspiring. And I can imagine for Christopher, with his quite big farm and a lot of these vegetable on food grade available, this may be a step forward there. But like you say, the offtake is of course crucial. Someone should adopt the product and integrate it in. But you mentioned several really sort of globally operating clients already incorporating the proteins in their product. So this is really, this will come sooner or later. This is a development that will definitely take off.
Agreed.
Thanks, Mark. So we have 3 minutes left. Just 1 minute, Bert, about the PIB. Please take it away.
Thank you very much, Ignas. Yes, the PIB, Partners for International Business project. In the coming 3 years, a group of 9 Dutch companies will try to set up business and cooperation with Australian counterparts in the waste and circular economy arena. Next slide, please. These are the 9 companies. 2 of those companies, called Smicon and DMT, are active specifically in the organics field. Of course, there are others also, because we cover quite a broad area in waste. Next slide, please. We will focus on Victoria, New South Wales, and also on Western Australia. And again, the project will last 3 years. Next slide, please. On the 1st of September, we will sign the so-called PIB covenant, and after that, we will do trade missions, outbound trade missions to Australia, also incoming study tours of key figures of the waste and circular economy sector in Australia. We will have a representative. We will work closely together with the embassy and the consulate general, and also with Envaqua, of course. We are very happy that we have this cooperation in this field. Hope to see you soon in Australia. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bert. That's really cool. Just 1 minute left. Karen, a few words to wrap up. What was your impression of today?
Look, first of all, thank you very much for the detail and the knowledge shared this afternoon and this evening. I think there's great opportunity here. If we listen to the 3 speakers from Australia, there's a connection to each one of those speakers today and the work that they're undertaking here. So I think the opportunity for us is to digest what we've heard. That's a good word. Digest what we've heard today. And we will meet and have a discussion about what we've heard, and we'll follow up with some opportunities that we might want to pursue beyond today. But particularly interested from my perspective, and we've been doing some work on, produce, particular vegetable produce, and the use of offcuts of those products, and how we might get more value add from that material. So thank you very much. And I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Super. Thanks, Karen. And I just already mentioned in the chat, we will upload the presentations later today or coming days to the Envaqua website. So there's all the detailed information can be found there again. And thank you for your appreciation. That is appreciated in return. Alida, do you want to have a few last words?
Yeah. Well. Thanks again, Ignas, and thanks for moderating this tight meeting and so many guest speakers. A big thank you to all the presenters. So much information, very interesting information, and again, it's a lot to digest. And I think we have to evaluate and see what we can do next. What could be good steps? Maybe people already have exchanged their contact details and find out themselves, but they can also get in touch with us if they need any more information. That's more than welcome. Yes, like I said, too much information, a lot of opportunities. I guess there are some common fields where we can cooperate, and a nice thing maybe to mention what I read it. So at Ellenbank, they also mentioned it also creates job creation, this whole innovation, circular economy. So that's also a very good component. So thanks again very much.
Thank you, Alida, and also thank you for setting this up with us. So Daya, I'm not sure if you did join the meeting. If so, then switch your camera on. If not, no, I think you did not join, which is not a problem because we're already 1 minute late. So thank you all for attending today. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the presenters to do your presentations and share your visions and ideas. There's this virtual bottles of wine and gifts that are being handed over now. Hope to do it in person later on would be great. So thanks for today, and looking forward to staying in touch. Have a good day all and a good evening. Ciao.